I decided to do a little repair on this RC car rather than throw it out. It belonged to my 10-year-old, and he didn't really like it so much, and he ended up breaking something on it. And so he gave it to my 7-year-old, who thinks it's wicked cool and just keeps bugging me about how I have to fix it for him. So I'm going to fix it for him. What happened here is this rear shock broke. And the problem is not really the shock that broke, it's actually the mount. So you can see right here there's supposed to be a plastic piece that stuck out and the shock attached to that. Show you the one that's not broken on this side. You can actually see it right here. The plastic thing sticks out. And the way it's made so that when you take this screw out and you swivel the shock down, it turns and you can take it off of that piece. So what I want to do is, since the plastic piece is long gone, A, I need to put something on here, and B, I've got to try and recreate something similar to, that would work similar to the way this worked. So what I'm thinking I can do is I could drill a hole and put a screw in there, but if I just screw this like that, I'm not convinced that that's going to work really well. So what I want to do is I think I want to maybe put a screw in there and then build it up with epoxy to make it stronger and make it more like this thick post that broke off on the other side, like the thick post that used to be there that broke off. So I undid that screw at the top there, which is basically goes right down into this lower part. So now I can just take this whole shock off, and now you can see that the design, it's got this hole so that when it's vertical it stays on that post, and when you turn it horizontal you can slide it off of the post. So now, in order to get to the point where I can drill a hole in this plastic part right here, the wheel's in the way, so I want to see if I can remove the wheel. Looks like there's just a screw in the middle there. Alright, so that worked out well. Now with the wheel off, I've got pretty good access to this this area where that plastic piece broke off. So what I'm going to try and do now is I'm going to try and see if I can drill a hole in the rough vicinity of where that was, maybe even a little bit lower down if I've got some clearance there on the back, which it looks like I do, so that I can put a screw in there and then epoxy it in. So here's the size screw I decided I want to use. It's a decent diameter. So I want to get a drill bit about that size. This time I'm going to start with a much smaller size drill bit, drill a pilot hole, and then progressively counterbore, because I don't want to I want to try and avoid cracking or splitting this plastic piece. Well, I got the hole drilled out to the size that I want now. I think I'm going to run a tap through it. Now that I tapped that hole, I can screw the screw in, and the plan is I'm going to screw it in about that much, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flow some epoxy onto the whole backside there and a little bit along the front here to beef it up, to give it some extra strength, because of course the screw's not going to break, but the force put on the screw at this plastic little ear here is kind of going to be that's going to be the weak point. Now of course the problem is, if I put the screw in and I epoxy it, then the head of the screw is not going to fit through this little part right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind a couple of flat sides on the head of the screw to basically simulate the kind of keyed fastener, or the little post had kind of a shape to it that would fit in there. So I just got finished grinding the screw head. I held it with vice grips, and I ground two flat sides to it, and then the width the other way was a little bit too long too, so I just kind of ground it square. So it's got a square head now, so that will, the way that's going to work is that will pass through that hole, and then when I turn the shock up 90 degrees it will hold it on. So in other words, I put it in here. Let's prop this up. I put it in here like that, then the shock goes on like this, and then when you rotate it up, it won't be able to come off. That's basically the design they had on the other side, only it was a plastic pin that was plastic molded part of the frame here. So this should be stronger once we finish epoxying it up. So now I'm going to get a little bit of epoxy on this side here and a lot on the back side to beef it up. I'm just using this Loctite epoxy, quick set 5 minutes, only because you see this tube's almost empty and I had just a little bit left over, and that's more than enough to do this project. So there you can see the camera's focusing and kind of get a gist of what I'm doing. I built up the front side to add some strength, and then I filled in the whole back side as best that I could. That epoxy kind of ran a little bit, so but that back side of the screw is pretty much buried in epoxy, and I think that's going to work well. Alright, so come back in a bit and after the epoxy sets up and reinstall the shock. Okay, I've got the shock reassembled. Now you can see how that little head that I ground, special shaped head that I ground on the screw is working out. It's going to hold that on just fine. And now last thing I got to do is put the wheel back on. And there we go. Successful repair. So I mean, this is a cheap RC. This thing probably was like 40 or 50 bucks. But still, it's 40 or 50 bucks. You know, rather save this and let my 7-year-old play with it than you know, have it end up just being thrown in the trash. My 10-year-old didn't like it because he saw the neighbor's new one, and the neighbor's new RC goes like 50 miles an hour. It's I think it's by a company called Traxxas, and I went online and checked them out, and it's like, yeah, they're pretty cool, but I mean, they're really well made, but they're crazy money. They're like $200 and more, and I'm not buying that kind of, I'm not spending that kind of money on an RC. So not for kids anyways, you know, that's more for adults that are into that hobby. But this will make my 7-year-old happy.